All right, welcome to the Kahoot live session. We're going to get started in a few minutes. So you got some spamming bots going. We'll just leave them in. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. All right, we're just going to go ahead and start. All right, so osmosis can be best described as All right, and that's going to be movement of water across a membrane. Anytime you see osmosis, it's always going to be water. So as long as you see osmosis, you know it's going to be water. It's the same thing as diffusion, but because it's dealing with water, scientists describe that as osmosis. All right, good job, Taylor. All right, so which of the following allows plants to carry out photosynthesis? So take a look at this, figure out which allows plants to carry out photosynthesis. And there's a slight delay, so if you see it coming up a little later than what's on your phone, that's fine because there's a slight delay, and that's done by YouTube. All right, and that's going to be chloroplast. The cell walls, the mitochondria, and the Golgi apparatus, none of that has to do with photosynthesis at all. It's the chloroplast that actually allow photosynthesis for plants to work. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Imagine there are 10,000 units of energy in the first level. How much is lost from level 1 to level 2? So this time we're looking at how much is lost from level 1 to level 2. Yeah, 9,000 units of energy has been lost. So right down here we have 10,000. When you go to the next level, 10% is transferred. There would be 1,000 here. 10% would be transferred to the next level, which would be 100, to the next level, which would be 10. But we're just concerned about level 1 to 2. If there's 10,000 units of energy and 1,000 units here, when I go from level 1 to level 2, I've lost 9,000 units of energy. So we do 10,000 minus 1,000, and we wind up with 9,000 units being lost because there's only 10% being transferred to each level. All right, let's move on to the next one. So how does fermentation compare with aerobic respiration in regards to energy? Think about what aerobic respiration is, and this will help you come up with the right answer. All right, and aerobic respiration is going to produce more energy. Fermentation does not produce more energy. It actually produces a lot less. So they don't both produce equal amounts of energy, and aerobic respiration doesn't produce less energy. Aerobic respiration, which is when we use oxygen, is going to release all that energy from the food that we have eaten, all the ATP from that food when we take in oxygen. All right, let's keep moving on. See, period 4 is in the lead. Which organelle is correctly paired with its correct function? So take a look at these organelles, figure out which one is doing or paired with its correct function. All right, and it's going to be ribosomes, which is protein synthesis. Ribosomes are all about making protein, so this one is paired up correctly. All right, so see, we got some people winning here. I see Yafa is up from 295 places, so nice job. All right, which of the following contain cell walls? So which of the following contain cell walls? Is it going to be bacteria, plant cells, animal cells, or both plant and bacteria cells? All right, it's definitely going to be plant and bacteria cells. It's a common misconception that it's just plant cells. Bacteria cells, which are prokaryotes, also have cell walls. It's a common misconception that it's just plant. Animal cells definitely don't have cell walls. It is plant and bacteria cells. And we can see right here, there are 29 groups that thought it was just plant cells, but it's plant and bacteria, but that's okay. That's why we're reviewing, so we can learn. All right, that's going to be prokaryotes. So we have prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Eukaryotes have membrane-bound organelles. They also have a nucleus, while prokaryotes do not. And this student is observing in which a nucleus is absent, meaning it's not there, and that's going to be a prokaryote. All right, take a look at the next one. We see second period is now in the lead, first period and second period. So let's move on. When cells go through mitosis, the end result is what? So what are we looking for at the end of mitosis? Not meiosis, but mitosis. Okay, and it's going to be two diploid cells that are exactly the same. The four haploid cells that are exactly the same can't happen because sex cells are always going to be random. You can't choose what traits you pass on, and they're not going to be the same. And haploid cells are sex cells, and they can't be four diploid cells that are exactly the same. So we have the same thing here. So if it can't be these two. So we go down here. So two haploid cells that are exactly the same. It is two cells, but they're going to be diploid, not haploid. All right, let's take a look at the next one. How many amino acids can be created from the above sequence once it goes through transcription? So let's take a look at this sequence right here. How many amino acids can be created? Is it going to be 4, 8, 12, or 20? Think about how many letters you need to create an amino acid, and you'll get your answer. Okay, and it's gonna be 4, and here's why it's 4. So we take a look at this right here, and each codon will create an amino acid, and it's a set of 3 letters. So here we have 1, 2, 3. This is going to be one amino acid. 1, 2, 3. This will be another one. 1, 2, 3. That brings the total to 3, and 1, 2, 3. It's going to be 4 amino acids. So you can break it off into sections of 3. You can also count the total and divide by 3. So we have 12 letters here. You divide that by 3, and that'll bring up 4 amino acids. All right, we still see second period and first period in place. Morgan is ahead by a couple hundred points, so we have a pretty close game here. All right, which type of macromolecule acts as an enzyme? So all four of these are macromolecules. So there's no made up answers here. Just made up names from the bots. Okay, it doesn't look like everybody got to this one, but it's going to be proteins. So we see we're almost even everywhere, but proteins act as enzymes, and proteins are going to speed up the rate of reactions, which is what enzymes do. If you want to take notes, don't feel like you have to rush through and get everything written down. This video will be up after the stream is over. All right, so we see Morgan's still in the lead. Let's keep going. So which process produces the most variation in a species? If you're having trouble answering this one, you can always look down below and you can find out which ones are the same, and that might help you answer this question. Okay, it's definitely going to be meiosis, which is sexual reproduction. Mitosis and asexual reproduction are the same thing. Meiosis, you're going to get that crossing over. You're going to get traits from one parent and traits from another parent, and you're going to have that crossing over in a lot of variation. You can see this in a brother or a sister. Your brother or sister doesn't look exactly like you. If you don't have any brothers or sisters, then look at somebody else you know. Look at their brother and sister. They don't look exactly the same. And that is the genetic variation caused by sexual reproduction, which is meiosis. All right, let's move along. Morgan's still in the lead. I see Adam B is back in the game. So that must be Adam Frost. So good job. Let's keep going. In order to do photosynthesis, plants must capture sunlight. What pigment traps the sunlight? All right, it's going to be chlorophyll, and taking a look here, every single person got that right. So good job, guys. All right, moving on. The cell membrane allows some things in while blocking other things. This is because the cell membrane is what? What is the cell membrane? Is it permeable, non-conductive, perforated, or semi-permeable? Okay, and it's going to be semi-permeable. Semi meaning, half. It's going to let some things in, block other things, so that makes it semi-permeable. All right, moving on. Which of the following would be a function of a macromolecule made of nucleotides? So in other words, what do nucleotides actually do? What is the function of the macromolecule nucleotides? All right, so this is going to be stored genetic information. You see nucleotides, you can think of nucleic acid like DNA, and the whole point of DNA is to store genetic information. All right, we see Cameron has moved up to the lead just with a little over 300 points. All right, so what does this picture illustrate? You'll see a picture in a moment. What is that illustrating? So here we have some bare rock, and we see that some trees and a small little forest has started to populate. What is that an example of? Okay, and this is going to be primary succession, and which seems like most of us got that. There is no life here. Life is starting for the first time. Primary means first, so it's primary succession. Secondary succession, which 11 people picked, that would be if there was life there before, there was some kind of natural disaster, and the life began growing back. Similar to what you saw in Indian Lake Estates, Florida. There was a massive wildfire. When life starts growing back, that would be secondary succession, life growing again. All right, and Alexis has moved up. Stem cells can turn into anything, such as a nerve cell or a muscle cell. What actually explains this? So what do stem cells do that allows them to turn into different things? Different being the key word. Okay, and differentiation is what we have here. They're turning into different things, and that process that allows them to turn the stem cells to turn into different things is differentiation. And the great thing about stem cells, they can literally turn into anything. All right, so Alexis is in the lead now. So the genetic material found in cells, what is that known as? What do we call that genetic material? Very easy one, don't overcomplicate it. What do we call the genetic material found in our cells? All right, and that's going to be DNA, and it seems that most of us got that. All right, let's move on. Lex is still in the lead, starting to put some distance between second place, and we see Hunter from fifth period is starting to close the gap too, just less than 2,000 points behind. All right, which of the following levels contain the least amount of energy? So we're going to take a look at 4 different levels here. Which one has the least amount of energy? Would that be level 1, 2, 3, or 4? Okay, and it's going to be level 4, the eagle. So we have level 1, 2, 3, and 4. At level 1, we're going to have the most amount of energy, because remember, level 4 is going to be the least amount of energy because only 10% moves up. So if we had, say, 10,000 here, and this level will have 1,000, here we'd have 100, and here we'd only have 10, because only 10% moves up each time. All right, let's move on. So which of the following would most likely cause variations within a species? We had a question very similar to this earlier. This one's not asking about asexual or sexual reproduction. It's asking which one is going to cause a change in the DNA to allow new variations or new species to occur. Okay, and it's going to be mutations. Mutations are going to cause a change in the DNA. It's not going to be mutualism. That's when two organisms benefit. It's not going to be competition, even though that's survival of the fittest. It says which one of these would most likely cause variations, and that's going to be mutations. And predation. Predation is when a predator eats prey. All right, let's move on. We see hunters moved up quite a bit into third place. All right, let's keep going. Plants give off oxygen to be used for cellular respiration. Which organisms will do cellular respiration? Which organisms will do that cellular respiration? Okay, so it's going to be animals and plants. It's not just animals, it's not just plants, it's both animals and plants. So plants do photosynthesis to make sugar. During cellular respiration, they actually use that sugar, and that's what we do to release the energy stored in our food is cellular respiration. All right, let's move on. So hunters now move to second place. Second period still in first place, and they are dominating the board right now. You take medicine which has a side effect on destroying the ribosomes. What will happen? And there is no picture here. Okay, and protein synthesis will be affected because ribosomes deal with proteins. All right, let's keep moving on. So, whoa, we see that Adam has moved up, representing first period. So let's move along. So sometimes a cell requires energy to move things into or out of the cell. What describes this? The key word here being energy. Okay, and that's going to be active transport. Active transport is when things move into or out of the cell that requires energy. An example of this would be endocytosis going into the cell. Another example would be exocytosis going out of the cell. Diffusion, facilitated diffusion are both examples of passive transport. So these three things right here are related. They do not require any energy at all, any ATP. All right, let's keep moving along. Hannah's at the top of the board. Which of the following carries amino acids to the site of protein synthesis? So here we have something right here that's carrying the amino acid. What is this called? Hint here, it's an anticodon. If you're having trouble figuring out, you can look at the shape. That might help. Okay, and that's going to be tRNA. mRNA is the messenger codon, and that tells the tRNA which amino acid to bring. And if you look closely, this looks somewhat like a T, or cross, someone said earlier today, which is a T shape. All right, so second and first period back on the board. Samuel has moved up from second period. Nice job. As Earth warms, glaciers recede, exposing rock. The organisms populating this are known as. So taking a look at that exposed rock, what do we call the organisms that are going to populate it for the first time? Okay, so this is going to be pioneer species. Looks like the majority of us got that. Even though it's the first species, scientists don't refer to them as the primary species. They refer to them as the pioneer species. They're the first ones exploring and starting to populate that area. And they're called pioneers because the Americans who moved out west to explore were called pioneers. So scientists named them the pioneer species. All right, let's move along. So a human has 46 chromosomes. During meiosis, sex cells form which have how many chromosomes? So we could say sex cells, we could say gametes, we could say haploid. How many chromosomes form during meiosis if a human cell has 46 chromosomes? Okay, and it's going to be 23 because meiosis cells or meiosis sex cells are haploid cells. Half of 46 is 23. That's how we got that answer. All right, let's move along. So we see Nerd 1 from another school starting to move up the board. Adam's still holding first place. So in eukaryotes, blank is known as genetic material during interphase. So what do we call the genetic material during interphase? It's often a tangled mess. All right, and that's going to be chromatin. Chromatin is that tangled mess. Chromosomes is inside our DNA, but the genetic material is known as chromatin during interphase. That is the tangled mess. All right, let's move along. What section of the plant is considered the male part, and how many male parts are there? Or how many parts of the male part are there, I should say. Okay, that's going to be the stigma, and there are two parts, the anther and the filament. We see about 15 people picked stigma, 3 parts. The sigma part is right. The pistil, that is actually the female part, and there are 3 parts to the female reproductive part of the flower. All right, let's move on. We see Adam's still in the lead. Rihanna has made her way up, and so has Rachel, Sam, and Alexa. All right, let's keep moving on. Remember, the more questions you get right in a row, the more points that you do score. So a raisin is placed in a beaker of pure water. What will happen? Okay, and water is going to move into the raisin. It moves from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. And since there's less water in the raisin and more water in the beaker, it's going to move from an area of high to low. All right, let's move on. We see first and second periods still dominating the board. Which of the following best describes meiosis? So here we have a picture of meiosis going through PMAT twice. If you look at the bottom of this picture, it'll really help you out with this question. All right, it's going to be occurring in the cells and the reproductive structures of organisms because meiosis is sexual, and there are 4 haploid cells here, which are the gametes. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. We still see first and second period. I don't see anybody from third period like Liam or anything. So third period, let's catch up. What section of the plant is considered the female part, and how many parts are there? If you're paying attention literally just a couple minutes ago, you'll see the answer to this one. You know, I've never heard the music run out like that before. This is the first time I've ever heard the music run out. It has the pistil, that is the female part, and there are 3 parts. All right, let's keep going. We're probably going to wrap this up in the next 30 minutes. We may not make it to the end. I know you guys have a lot of things to do. I do appreciate you coming out and playing. We'll probably play for maybe a little less than 30 minutes. We'll make it as far as we can. All right, we see Clayton has moved up 6 places and is currently the highest climber. So we have a pretty close game here. Rachel just took the lead just by a little over 200 points. All right, heterotrophs consume other organisms for energy. What happens in order for energy to be used? If we want to use that energy, what do we need to know about ATP and ADP? Okay, so ATP, we have 3 phosphate groups. They're going to break down into a phosphate group and ADP, which will make energy. It's actually the breaking of that 3rd phosphate group and it turning it into ADP that's going to actually make the energy. Looking down here, ADP adds a phosphate group to generate ATP. That's only half of it. Once that is done, the bond between the 2nd and 3rd phosphate group actually has to break apart. So even though the green square is true, it's incomplete. It's not fully done all the way. All right, let's move on. So first and second period still dominating the board, and 18 players just dropped their answer streak of 3. But that's okay. That's why we're reviewing, so we can practice. Now moving across the membrane through protein pumps or channels. This is known as what? What is this known as? When we use these protein pumps, or when solutes use the protein pumps or channels, what is that called? What kind of transport is that? Okay, and that's going to be facilitated diffusion. There's no energy being used here, but it's not diffusion. It's a form of diffusion because it's using protein pumps or channels. It's going to be facilitated diffusion. No energy is being used here, so it's not going to be active transport. All right. Here we go. And we see Ryan is back in the game, moving up onto the scoreboard. So what is the phenotype and genotype for the letter X in the diagram? So a capital B is going to be black, capital S is going to be smooth hair, lowercase s is going to be rough hair, and I ran out of space to type the question. Our lowercase b is going to be brown hair. Okay, so we move this, if we take a look at this, we take this capital B, move it across. This little b, we move it down. We take this capital S, move it down. This lowercase s, we move across. It doesn't matter what order it's in, but we have a heterozygous for hair, heterozygous for the type of hair, smooth or rough, and we get this combination right here. The black is dominant, so that's why it's black hair, and smooth is dominant if we look back here in the question. All right, next one. Oceans, lakes, and other large bodies of water don't heat up quickly. This is because why? Think back to properties of water. We talked about this at the very beginning of the year when we did cohesion and adhesion. All right, it's because water has a high heat capacity. A good indication to remember this is the large bodies of water. The reason they don't heat up quickly is because it has a high heat capacity. It takes a really long time for water to heat up. All right, we see Rachel is in the lead, and first and second period still dominating the board. An organism's ability to survive and reproduce is known as an organism's what? In class, we talked about this. We said it's not just about surviving, it's also about reproducing, and we gave a name for that. What is that? All right, and that's simply called fitness. That's actually a level 1 question. And a level 1 question doesn't mean that it's easy. It just means you either know it or you don't. There's really nothing to figure out there. So level 1 doesn't mean it's easy. It just means either know the word or you don't. No big deal. It looks like the majority of us know the word. So good job. All right. Let's move on. mRNA has a sequence UAG, GCA, ACU. What was the original DNA sequence? So moving backwards here from mRNA to DNA. All right, looks like most of us figured it out in time, and it's going to be this one right here. If you look at the yellow and the green, they're very, very similar, and we know that this converts to ATC. U pairs up, if we go from DNA, U is going to pair up with A. This A is going to come from the T. This G is going to come from the C. It's this sequence right here where the yellow and the green differentiate. This is a G, which is going to make it a C. If you look at this yellow one over here, it is G, and that is not the case. So you got to look at that pretty closely, but most of us got that. Good job. All right, let's keep moving on. So what is this illustration, or what does the illustration show? So here we have an illustration. What is this? So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 cells at the end. That is kind of a giveaway. All right, well, there are 4 gamete cells, which are sex cells. That's going to be meiosis. We're going to do about 3 more questions, and we're going to go ahead and call it a night. So first and second period still dominating the board. Someone in third period is making a comeback. So we got about 3 questions left here. Structures that have a common bone structure that show evidence for evolution, what are they known as? So we looked at this picture in class. What is this an example of? Analogous structures, evolutionary structures, vestigial structures, or homologous structures? Okay, so this one right here is going to be homologous structures, homo meaning the same. It's not evolutionary structures. Analogous structures do not show evidence for evolution. Those are simply structures that share a similar function but not a similar bone structure. Vestigial structures are smaller structures that no longer serve a purpose, such as your appendix or wisdom teeth or tailbone. All right, a couple more, and then we're going to go ahead and call it. So which of the following choices show transcription? So we have transcription and translation. Which of these show transcription? Okay, and that's going to be DNA to mRNA. Transcription comes first, translation comes second, and translation is mRNA to tRNA. None of these others are even possible. All right, let's move on. So first and second players still controlling the board. We have Rachel way out in the lead with over 4,000 points. So good job, Rachel. The blank moves chromosomes towards opposite ends of the cell during anaphase. What's going to move those chromosomes? Okay, and it's going to be spindle fibers, which come from the centrioles. So we have the centrioles here, and then come the spindle fibers out of the centrioles. They're going to connect and start pulling those chromosomes towards opposite ends of the cell. All right, we're going to go ahead and do the last one. The bots are getting a bit active. So we're going to do the last one. Rachel's still in the lead with 4,000. So this is going to be the last one here. Prokaryotes and eukaryotes are different, but they do have something in common. This is a great question, Don. Which below shows what they have in common? Do they have a nucleus in common, lysosomes, mitochondrion, or ribosomes? And if you're wondering, mitochondrion is mitochondria, and the mitochondrion is plural. and they have ribosomes in common, and that is the protein. So let's take a look at our winner. That's going to be Rachel, and she's going to get 300 extra credit points in your dreams. But you will get some more extra credit than anybody else. Anybody who came out and participated tonight, I want to thank you guys. You're all going to get some extra credit towards your grade. Thanks for coming out. Hope you had a good time. We're going to see you guys in class. We'll see you guys next time. Or in class, I guess. Not really next time, but in class. I'll see you tomorrow, Monday. Bring any questions that you have to class, and we'll cover them either tomorrow on Friday or on Monday before our test on Tuesday. You guys have a good night. We'll see you in class.